So Michelle Obama has this podcast. She does it with her sexually ambiguous brother. And it's been out there for a few weeks now, and it's not good. It's not good at all. But it is really revealing. It's revealing about their relationship, about Michelle Obama as an individual, and about her relationship with her husband. It's a little uncomfortable, actually. It's almost like this open therapy that Michelle Obama is going through for all of us to see. Now, you're not watching this podcast. And by the way, you're not alone. They're not getting a whole lot of downloads. They're not getting a whole lot of views. But I want you to see a little bit of it because, like I said, it informs us about who Michelle Obama is and whether she really does have a political future. People tell me that Michelle Obama would be unstoppable if she ran for president. I'm not so sure. Take a look at this segment from the most recent episode. We'll watch it through once and then we'll comment.
My decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like, people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me, and it took everything in my power to not do the thing that was right, or that was perceived as right, but do the thing that was right for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hard thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I had to basically trick myself out of it. And it started with not having anything to wear. I mean, I had affirmatively, because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team, I don't even want to have a dress ready.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so easy to just say, let me do the right thing.
I don't know if you noticed something. That is 1 minute and 17 seconds long. And we're going to do this together, but I just did a count in my head. I believe she said either me or I or my 23 times in 1 minute 17. I mean, the level of clueless narcissism this woman has in telling this story about why she didn't go to the inauguration, where we were told she had a scheduling conflict. She didn't go to the Carter funeral because she extended her vacation in Hawaii or something like that. Let's not leave the Jimmy Carter funeral out of this too. That she did not want to be the woman on Barack Obama's arm for two major international moments. And I kid you not, we're gonna count them together, and then we'll go back and actually deal with the substance of what she said. But stick with me. I know it's painful to have to listen or watch this woman again, but this is so revealing about her and about this couple. The me, I, my quadrant here is incredible. 1 minute, 17 seconds. Now let's go.
My decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like, people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me, and it took everything in my power to not do the thing that was right, or that was perceived as right, but do the thing that was right for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hard thing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I had to basically trick myself out of it. And it started with not having anything to wear. I mean, I had affirmatively, because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team, I don't even want to have a dress ready.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so easy to just say, let me do the right thing.
All right, 22. I think I got 22. Did you guys get the same count? 22. First time I thought it was 23. I had to use my toes. It's a minute and 17 seconds. And she said, I, me, my, or myself. That's a world record. All right. So there's that narcissism. But now let's break down what she's actually saying.
My decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like, people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart.
Right.
Well, first of all, we'll get to her marriage falling apart in a little while, because there is something to be said there. But forgive me for being a tax-paying American citizen who funds her lifestyle right now and her security, and funded a pretty extravagant lifestyle while she was First Lady of the United States. I'm sorry. Whenever people decide if they're going to run for president or not, they talk about the discussions they have with their wife or husband or family about how their lives will never be the same again. This will affect your life forever. That's sort of part of the bargain. I'm pretty sure that when she signed up for this and decided to campaign for Barack and explain how this was the first time she'd ever been proud of her country when they nominated her husband as president, being called First Lady and having that big staff and having all the free travel and having all of the prestige and having all of the magazine covers and then leaving the White House and getting all those jobs for millions and millions of dollars. It does, in fact, come with a price. Forgive us, Mrs. Obama, for expecting you to actually do a statesman-like thing and attend a couple of state events now and again in exchange for everything that you got. You think you'd have a podcast right now that anyone gave a crap about if you weren't in the White House? Look at that face. Look at the entitlement, the arrogance, the whiny, negative attitude of someone who has literally been given so much in this country in exchange for so little from her. But then she explains why it was such a burden for her to have to drop everything and go to the inauguration of the 47th president.
It's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me, and it took everything in my power
This Oprah psychobabble is so 1998, maybe 2002, but that's the shelf life. To own my life and to retain my... I'm sorry, Michelle, we didn't all read your book, okay? We're not on board with this. The sooner this genre of podcast can die a miserable death, these entitled, rich, famous, narcissistic people angrily whining about their own insecurities and how horrible their life is. Good God, woman. But it got worse, actually, in this episode. If you haven't heard enough, she's got more.
We don't articulate as Black women our pain because it's almost like nobody ever gave us permission to do that.
And does anyone care?
Yeah, there's
Will
that.
they care?
If we knew, I think we would care. If we knew. If we knew.
Yeah. CeeLo Green is right. What's going on with that guy? So think about this for a minute. She is a very famous woman, and she's married to a very famous man. And as far as we know, you remember how she just said, oh, people are suggesting that there's something wrong in my marriage? This woman just said that we Black women, I guess she's including herself when she says we, are really bad at articulating our pain. Her guest there, the actress, says, and who would care anyway? And Michelle Obama says, yeah, there's that. Isn't that kind of an unspoken indictment of her husband? I mean, I don't know. If my wife appeared in a public forum saying it's really hard for me to articulate my pain, and somebody said, and it's not like anyone would care, I would hope my wife would say, well, Larry would care. Larry would definitely care. And then CeeLo Green, her brother, chimes in there and says, well, if we knew we'd care. And Michelle Obama's like, Well, forgive us for jumping to conclusions that maybe there might be some trouble in the Obama marriage, but this is painful to watch. It's so painful. We're going to keep watching.
Never gave us permission to do that.
And does anyone care?
Yeah, there's
Will
that.
they care?
There's
If
that
we
part.
knew, I think we would care. If we knew.
Mm-hmm.
If we knew.
Or, yeah. And we have to ask ourselves, the men in our lives is, why wait to be asked? It seems like what we go through is pretty obvious. I mean, maybe we're not complaining, but we're actually living life out loud, we.
Wow. I'm sorry. I can't believe this, but I'm really feeling sorry for Barack right now. Not too sorry. We'll get to him in a minute. But can you imagine your wife doing that? Why should I need to say so? Why would I mean, moments ago, she was like, I can't believe people thought there was trouble in my marriage. And now she's airing this for everybody to see? It got worse. This is from a previous episode. But imagine your wife or your husband saying this about you publicly. I recognize that millions of people aren't listening to this podcast. They thought that they'd get millions, but tens of thousands, that's not nothing. Imagine your loving wife, your loving husband saying this about you publicly.
Would you be attracted to a guy who's not financially sound when you meet him?
I married one.
Would you be attracted to a guy who's not financially sound when you meet him?
I married one.
I just so disrespectful, so insulting. And oh, by the way, such a lie. I cannot believe this. You have put me in the position to defend your husband. Damn you, Michelle Obama, that I have to defend Barack Obama. When they met and fell in love and got married, I've seen the movie. Barack Obama had gone to Occidental College for the first couple of years of his liberal arts degree, then went to Columbia University, Ivy League, then got his law degree at Harvard Law. Where he was the president of the Harvard Law Review, first Black president of Harvard Law Review. He graduates with his Harvard Law degree. I think the guy's got prospects. Ended up moving to Chicago, getting a job with a firm. Now, listen, I understand her being suspicious of whatever potential he had because he decided to be a community organizer. But to suggest that a guy like that is a loser and doesn't have any sort of financial upside is probably the most deceitful and disrespectful thing a woman can say about her husband. And yet here she is saying it for all the world to hear. And it gets worse. Here's another episode of this unwatchable podcast.
I mean, we've talked about this, that often I date younger men. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is because...
Let's stop on that, folks.
Oh my God, we had a great dinner. We had a great dinner, by the way, where across the table, your husband goes, but why? And I said, well, maybe because I can.
Yes. This is what I'm saying. Tales from Tracy's.
It's fun. It's really fun to share.
Tracy tale.
But
I'm sorry.
But one of the reasons, though, that because I had to ask myself that question, I was like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Because I want a partner. And so often, and it's not just that I'm older, I'm also very embodied. I am a full, very whole person who knows myself, who is in charge of my life, and who lives a very full, just robust life. So it's not just age, it's like life experience and sort of a difference. But I had to ask myself the question, why? Why does this keep sort of coming up other than they're hot and gorgeous?
There's that.
But a lot of men my age are steeped in a toxic masculinity and have been raised in a culture where there is a particular way that a relationship looks. And anything that starts to smell of that for me, I did enough of it where I was controlled and felt like I was a possession or whatever those things were, or prize I have no interest in it, and I will not do it again.
Yeah,
I mean, we've talked about this, that often I date.
You're a real prize, lady. I've said no doubt that those guys looked upon you as a prize. Did you hear Michelle Obama that entire time? This woman talking about how she dates younger men because older men her age, which is the same age as Michelle Obama and Barack Obama for that matter, those men are full of toxic masculinity. And this entire time that she's doing this, Michelle Obama's like, So here's Michelle Obama publicly on this podcast celebrating the idea of, oh, yeah, go after those younger men because you can. They're hot. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're Barack watching this like, excuse me, darling. Hello. But this clip might reveal exactly what's going on here, simmering under the surface.
Times, and people think I'm being catty by saying this. It's like there were 10 years when I couldn't stand my husband.
You know? Do say that. You say
10 long years. And guess when it happened? When those kids were little, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because, you can be all great individually when you're just married. You got your life, he's got his, you come together. It's all, ooh, good to see you. Bye. Take it easy. And then you have kids.
Not take it easy.
Take it easy. You're traveling. That's great. Good. I get to hang out and watch the TV I want to watch.
Right.
But the minute we had kids, it was like, where are you going? And how far? And you start measuring. It's like, how many diapers did you change? And oh, you're golfing? Yeah. Oh, you got time? Oh, you got time to golf? How you at the gym all the time?
Boy, she's a catch, isn't she? Again, I almost feel sorry for Barack Obama. For 10 years, she hated her husband. Just, going on 15 for me. But I hate to break it to Michelle Obama, but if you publicly say you hate Barack Obama, that makes you a racist. I'm sorry, not my rules. Those are just rules I'm supposed to live by. But what an odious, horrible human being she is. She's got to stop doing these podcasts if she wants her marriage to survive, which maybe she doesn't. Here's Barack Obama responding to the fact that her wife has publicly said that she hated him for a decade. Past tense. He's on the CBS morning news show with a former football player, by the way. I just want to point this out as a side, because earlier in the week, we showed Michael Stranahan, a former football player who is one of the co-hosts of Good Morning America. And CBS News, of course, not to be done. They get Nate Burleson on there, former football player, to also be a co-host of their network morning shows. My God, there is no creativity out there at all. It is so awful. They are so bad, these shows. These network shows are so derivative of each other. It's just hard to watch. So, of course, you have the former football player conduct the interview because why not? And the question of how you keep a happy wife who hates you for a decade came up in the conversation.
We had your wife, Michelle, on the show, and she had mentioned that for about 10 years of the marriage, she really didn't like you.
Oh, man.
So asking for a friend, how do you get back in good graces? Again, for a friend. You got a pen so I can take some notes?
Let me just say this. It sure helps to be out of the White House.
Now, I need to stop there. Look at that football player. I need to stop there because I would have leaned in here. If this were my interview, because I'm not a former football player, I actually listen to what the person is saying, and I researched the subject beforehand. You just saw the clip of Michelle Obama saying that she hated her husband for a decade. And specifically, when asked about that decade, it had to do with the kids being little, right? Being little. The kids were little. Well, by the time they made it to the White House, the kids were not little anymore. Sasha and Malia, if I remember right, were like, 14 and 12, let's say, 12 and 10. They weren't little. But Barack Obama just said that the secret to getting back in your wife's good graces after she hated you for 10 years is to get out of the White House. Now, they were in the White House for 8 years. And by the time they got out of the White House, one of their kids had already gone to college. The other one was still in high school for one more year. That's why, by the way, they said they were going to stay in Washington, D.C. because they didn't want to take their daughter out of her very, very expensive private school until she graduated. That was in 2016. It's now 2025. They still live in Washington, D.C., one of their many homes. But regardless of that, do the math here with me, will you? Michelle Obama says that she hated her husband for 10 years back when the kids were little. Barack Obama, when asked how you repair that, says it helps when you get out of the White House, which was 8 years later. So now we're going on close to 2 decades of Michelle hating her husband. Okay, fine. Just wanted to throw that out there because Nate Burleson, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks and Detroit Lions, couldn't bring himself to ask the follow-up. He's just smiling. He's so happy to be talking to Barack. Why take this job seriously after all?
And to have a little more time with her.
Right.
You know, what also helps, though, about children, and
Yeah.
I don't know about your spouse, Michelle, when our girls were growing up, that was priority number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Of course.
And so I did not fully appreciate, I think, as engaged of a father as I was, the degree of stress and tension for her, knowing that not just me and Michelle were under scrutiny and in this strange environment, but that we were raising our daughters,
Of course.
in a kind of situation that it just wasn't normal. Now that they're doing good,
Yeah.
you know, she is a little more forgiving of all my flaws. She says, you know, what she's told me is, you know, looking back, you did okay as a dad.
Yeah.
And if I pass that test, then she'll forgive me most of my other foibles.
I kind of feel sorry for him. Kinda. Except that he screwed up our country so much and created such a toxic environment for political discourse in this country that it's hard to feel sorry for him that much. But good Lord, Michelle Obama. I like I said, these podcasts that she's doing and this whole hand-wringing about how horrible your life is, and he did too. Oh, it was just a terrible environment. They hated being president and first lady. That's how everyone who says that Michelle Obama, she runs for president, she's going to be, it's got cakewalk. She's got it in the bag. Michelle Obama, oh, God forbid, Michelle. I hear Republicans say this all the time. Oh, I hope Michelle Obama doesn't run for president. I hope she does. I hope she does run for president, because every single time she does an interview like this, every time she shows who she is, she shows herself to be a toxic individual with serious anger issues and resentment, not just of her husband, but of this country and all of the things she's gotten from us. I want her to keep doing these podcasts. Please do. Let the world see who you are, completely unplugged and unvarnished. Let your hair down, just like your brother does, sort of.